All right. So I hope this discussions were fun. It has to be kind of fun, actually. And if the discussion is like fun, then there's no hardship. You see? Yeah. Same as also in the debate in the monastery, we try to have fun, and then the heavy material becomes easy to deal with. So that's my pit instruction. I don't like to give advice to people, generally speaking, but this advice I like to share. Yeah. So yeah, I hope it was a constructive way of discussing things, and because we have questions, but sometimes also it's good to examine questions ourselves first. You know, in the monastery there's a system of self-research and debate before getting the answers. You know, so then there's kind of, I want to know this, you know, so that's very important. Yeah. Otherwise, if that's there, if you really have a question and you doubted it and you discussed it and then you ask, then the answer has a better impact. If it's just like, yeah, ask question, answer comes and then it goes, and yeah, it comes and goes. Yeah, so that's why in our system of answering and debate, in our case, discussions is very important. Yeah. So I hope it was fruitful. And yeah, if there's any questions left, then I'm here. So yeah, if I have an answer, I can answer, and otherwise I can try to, give you a few things to think about. Yeah.
Geshe-la, Jill and
Yeah,
Marco
I see the blue hand.
already
Not the
see
blue hand, the white hand with the blue background. That's what it is. Yeah, I put the volume a bit higher. Yeah. Yeah, Gil, please.
Hi, Geshe-la. Okay, I think I've asked this before, and I haven't got to the bottom of it yet, which is the karma.
Yes.
In this life, that ripens in this life. Is it only karma from the previous life, or can the karma created in this life ripen within this life, or only in the next life?
Yeah.
Good or bad?
There's many possibilities. You all the way in Bulgaria, very nice.
Oh yes, yes, under the Bodhi tree, hoping for inspiration.
Yeah. So I mean, there is karma. Generally speaking, we say that karma that is the heaviest ripes the earliest, right? That's generally speaking the answer. Yeah. So that's one thing. Or if karma, as a lot of karmas are equal in number, then the karma created most recently can ripen. Yeah, but there's no pervasion. Yeah, so it just depends on what causes and conditions are present to that karma ripen. But you can imagine if karma is very strong, the possibility of ripening even in this life is possible. Because we just talked about, when karma action comes complete with its 4 factors, right? So then, if the object is more superior, for example, a spiritual leader who brings great benefits to a huge amount of beings on this planet, right? If you kill a person like that, is considered as more negative than to kill a person who doesn't have that capacity to help humankind in that way, you know? So from the object, if there's a very kind of powerful object that's been killed, then with those 3 factors of the intention, there's a very strong motivation to kill. These afflictions are incredibly strong, yeah? And the discrimination factor is of course present. And then the way you kill is in a very kind of nasty way, yeah? And then not only the person dies before you die, but also you rejoice in the act. Yeah, you can also rejoice in something negative, of course, right? So then you can imagine it becomes a very heavy negative karma, yeah, which has the capacity to ripen. It doesn't pervade, right? But to ripen in the same lifetime. Yeah, so it means if karma is extremely heavy, it can ripen. And we see, people who act who are in the circuit of criminals or this kind of drugs kind of cartels. You can see, they kill each other in a very nasty way, but also they themselves face these kind of situations, So it's probably, it doesn't pervade, right? But it gives you some reasoning to think about that very heavy negative karma can ripen in this life. But
Sorry, Geshe-la, what do you mean by doesn't pervade, please?
So doesn't pervade as a term we use in debate is not necessarily the case that it's ripen in this life. It's a general outline, right? If karma is very heavy, there's a high possibility or high percentage that it will ripen in this life. But it's not, you know, if it's 80%, then still it's 20% possible of not ripening. So that means it doesn't pervade, or yeah?
It's not certain.
Not certain, yeah.
It's possible.
Sorry, yeah, not certain you can say. Yeah, sorry. I'm more thinking in Tibetan than in English.
No, it's okay. I just
Not only in Tibetan, but in the way we normally think in when you read a text and with debate kind of structure. Yeah, sorry for that.
I like to get my terminology correct for
very
understanding.
Good. It's very good. Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you very
my
much.
mind, habituated to this kind of patterns. So it's not certain that it ripens in this life. Yeah, but there's a high percentage of possibility. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so that's but it can also ripen in next life or a few lifetimes down the line, and that depends on causes and conditions. Yeah. So same a criminal who commits a lot of crimes, right? But steps out of that situation and becomes a better human being, so to say. But without purification, then maybe in another lifetime, being killed comes to ripening, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
And I will unmute Marco. Yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, it's my question. So my question is, which actually came out of our group discussion just now, where we were very concerned in a way with the responsibility of karma for others. So when we talk about the 4 points of karma, and the second point is the potential to increase, right? So the snowball effect or butterfly effect, we could call it. That in fact, that would imply that our own actions have also negative, possibly negative karma for the people that we're surrounded with, our family or friends or people that we're in direct contact with. So the question is, how much of that is actually happening? How much do we increase other people's negative karma? And is that possible? So if something happens to our family member or one close. Thank you.
I mean, we can be a condition, right, for that to ripen. Okay? Yeah, so we can be a condition, but we cannot cause others to experience something that is our mistake. Yeah, so we can only play with conditions, and then the condition becomes a cause, or, you know, corporate conditions for it to come about. Yeah, so that's why. But that condition, that also is mostly related with negative things of our own kind of activity. Yeah, so that means if you act in a particular negative way that irritates another person, that causes the other person maybe to ripen some other negative karma related to that, and the whole relationship breaks up, or there's a big issue, right? Yeah, so in that regard, there's a correlation, true. But it's not a correlation in the sense that whatever we do has a negative effect on others, because whatever we do in a constructive, positive way, you know, the long-term benefit will be you know, something good, right? Yeah. So we always have to look also at short-term benefits and long-term benefits. Yeah, like a person who's on drugs and asks you for money, then better buy a meal for that person than to give money directly, which goes straight into the drugs. Yeah. So in certain ways, we are part of this interconnectedness with others, but we can play a role from the point of view of conditions. I don't know, is that enough to your question or not?
Yeah, I think that answers it. Yeah, it's maybe more about the complexity of karma in terms of also the motivation behind it, I guess, and the responsibility that comes from them. Yeah, but I think you answered it already. Yeah,
a little bit in regard to responsibility. Of course, we cannot change the world and we cannot solve all the problems everywhere, right? But at least we can generate a good motivation. That's why intention is so important, right? If there's a conflict or if there's a problem and we like to solve it, so with a good motivation, we address the issue, but the outcome is not as expected. That happens quite often, right? That we want to change a particular aspect of a project or situation with a good motivation, but it didn't go the right direction. Happens, right? So that means at that time, you shouldn't worry too much, but you should think, okay, I had a good intention, I'm not in control I cannot change the whole world, right? But at least I can try to help out. So what I always find beneficial is, even if you work for projects with facing certain kind of obstacles and certain things are difficult, and you do with a good motivation, with a good intention, you try to do your best, but the outcome is not as expected, then at least you can think, I tried my best, and I make a prayer that in the future, not only my intentions will be good, but also the outcome will be good. If you think in that way, you create a cause for the outcome to be good as well in the future. If you have a good intention and the outcome is not that good, and you get depressed and you think, yeah, why should I do this? You will never progress, right? So that's why if you try, things don't work out, then make a prayer and think, okay, I did my best. I'm not in control of the whole situation. Things depends on many causes and conditions. From my side, I did my best. May in the future, not only my intention will be pure, but also the outcome will be perfect. Then at least it becomes a constructive way forward than just getting depressed and forget the whole thing, right? Yeah, that's just mind training. That's what Shantideva said, you know, if you have a problem, you can solve it, don't worry. Don't worry about too much, do it, you know. If you have a problem and you cannot solve it, then also you shouldn't worry about it too much, because you cannot solve it anyway. Like His Holiness says, like old age. You know, I see myself also now doing prostrations here. It's kind of, I didn't do for a few years, and I see him getting older, you know. So that old age, you cannot stop. So you have to accept it, right? So that's nothing to worry about, you know, to get more gray hairs or, you know, physically things get more difficult. That's a part of, you know. So that's what Shantideva exactly says, what His Holiness says. If you have an issue like that, you cannot do anything about it, and also you shouldn't worry about it, because you cannot solve it anyway. Yeah, I think that's it's made more clear. Yeah, okay.
Okay, next one will be Martin Geshe-la.
Yeah, Martin. Yeah. Hi. On mute.
Hello, Geshe-la. This is a question that came out of the discussion we had in our group about the difference between throwing karma and completing karma.
Okay.
And if I understand correctly, throwing karma means that it's a kind of karma that can propel you into a certain rebirth. Mm-hmm. And all of those four factors have to be in place for it to be throwing karma. Whereas with completing karma, one or more of those four factors is not in place. So it's a kind of incomplete bit of karma. But when it's completing karma, it can't throw you into a rebirth. It just affects the conditions of your life. Mm-hmm. Where I think we struggled with a bit was that that sounds very kind of prescriptive. Yeah. Whereas because karma is a very hidden phenomena, which almost says that it's very hard to predict. It's very hard to be prescriptive about how karma works. And I struggled a bit with that there is something that's very, very prescriptive. If you follow this very specific formula, it will affect your rebirth. But if something's not quite right in the formula, it doesn't affect your rebirth. Perhaps you could elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, it's nice black and white kind of presentation, right? This classification, this group, this group, this group, and then you play around. Yeah, it's not that fixed, of course, but at least we have to start somewhere to describe a very different kind of process, right? Same as, you know, if you always use an example of strawberry jam made somewhere in southern little villages in France, you know. So how does that taste? You never know until you taste it yourself. You can describe it in many ways, but same with this subtle aspect of karma. You can only really understand it after having this all-knowing mind of a Buddha. But we have to start somewhere. So we describe this jam as fruity and sweet, and, you know, so we get an idea, you know. So that's also where with karma, we classify it to make things more clear and describe different aspects of it. Same with things in quantum mechanics or things in science. We try to describe certain aspects of what we see or what we perceive in order to come closer to reality. Every computer model you make, people take it for granted that it is, but it's not reality. It's just an approximation of reality. Yeah, every scientific research, how incredible much evidence there is in the data, and some people, even with coronavirus, many aspects of science, people take it for granted that's reality, but it's not. It's an approximation, right? So when we studied hydrology, we did a lot of statistics. And one of our professors, he was kind of the philosophy of mathematics. That was his subject. So he taught us actually what can we actually, to which extent can we perceive reality or not? Yeah, what is actually approximation, and to which extent is that approximation close or not closer to reality? Yeah, so it's very interesting philosophy, and it's called philosophy because you cannot, those things you have to discuss. Yeah, so even in the scientific world, we see things black and white, and people draw conclusions from data and sometimes take it completely out of the picture because it sells better, something like that, right? So, but also we have to start somewhere with the scientific world to describe a particular phenomena using mathematics, using statistics, and then we draw conclusions, but it's not the reality yet, right? So, yeah, I hope that helps a bit, Martin.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, that makes it. It makes it clearer that it's not clear, if you see what I mean. But
yeah, so
helpful.
every time we try to make it a little bit more clear, and then one day things become clear. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Yeah.
So next one, Geshe-la, is Adam. Unmute Adam now.
Hi, Geshe-la.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Adam South, meaning you are from the south, or that's actually your real...
No, that's my name. That's my second name.
Sorry.
I don't know why it's got my full name. My question's about, I'm kind of trying to relate it to free will and determinism in these terms, because when we think about karma and cause and effect in general, it's very, I mean, Martin was kind of saying it's kind of rigidly, it seems like deterministic, like if everything is a result of karma and all causes and effects, it seems like that naturally is deterministic. But obviously Buddhism doesn't feel that way in what we're doing. So I was wondering kind of where it is that free will lies in this process.
Free will, yeah. That always comes up. It depends how you describe free will. What is your definition of free will? That's one important question to be asked, first of all, right? Because everything is in the nature of cause and effect relationships, so nothing is fixed, right? Even karma is not fixed, as we saw. There's a possibility of destroying positive karma. There's a possibility of purifying and destroying negative karma. Nothing is fixed as such. Yeah? So if you study, like, that's why I like emptiness so much, because it's not that easy, but there's one chapter in Nagarjuna's Fundamental Wisdom, actually two, chapter 17 and 7. There's two chapters which talks about disintegratedness. Yeah, anyway, if you're interested, you should, they made some recordings from last weekend. It's very heavy material. What we do here, Discovering Buddhism, is just easygoing kind of stuff, you know. So last weekend we went over the view of ultimate reality from the point of view of 8 points classified in the ultimate view of Prasangika view of philosophy, which is, not that easy, but there's one point that is called disintegratedness, means something cease to exist, and that leaves a kind of potential for the future developments. Yeah, so this particular school of Buddhist philosophy said there's nothing else that comes instead and becomes a seed or something. It's one action stops. And when it stops, it carries itself the momentary changing nature. So it disintegrates over time. And then when it meets the right conditions, it produces a result. The result of fruition, as we say. Yeah? So that's kind of, everything is completely in law of cause and effect relationships. Nothing is kind of static, right? So there's also true karma, and also with regard to free will. Same with, on the quantum level, nothing is fixed, other than the law of quantum mechanics, right? But there's no particles as such, or a creator as such, separate from the particles. That doesn't exist, right? So then again, we see is just a whole flux of causes and conditions and cause and effect relationships, right? So our body and mind, same thing. There's nothing else than, there's nothing else separate from body and mind as a creator and decides what to do, or has the will to do things. That kind of entity or agent doesn't exist. Even on the quantum level, there's nothing else than what we actually perceive as a whole kind of flux of cause and effect relationships, right? So that's one important thing to be understood. There is nothing separate from this whole kind of law of cause and effect relationships, right? If you understand that well, then it will help you to understand emptiness, yeah, because it's kind of subtle aspect of conventional reality. So then where does the free will fall into? Because everything is dependent on cause and conditions. How can we have a free will to choose the things we like to choose, right? Yeah, so even the things we wish for depends on previous moments of consciousness, you know, having different types of interest, right? So because of that being the case, the more we habituate our mind or this conventional flux of causes and conditions within the mere continuity of our consciousness, the more we habituate ourselves to positive patterns, it will be easier in the future to generate a similar kind of positive direction, you see? So in that context, there's free will. Yeah, we can choose to be today on Zoom and meeting and discussing these things, or hanging out in this beautiful sunny day in one of the parks with, you know, 6 people you're allowed to, and then with, you know, something to drink in the center of the group. Yeah, which is mostly in the plastic takeaway things with like yellowish color. And so you can do that as well, but you choose to be here. So that's an incredible sign of having kind of similar interests, maybe of, you know, previous inclination. So there is a kind of possibility to choose within. I always see it as kind of, there's a huge amount of probabilities, right? Or possibilities. Yeah, so it's very similar to, it's not that's research. I find it most easiest from scientific point of view to relate to. Though I talked with a few people, one person in neuroscience, and she said that, yeah, this theory is nice, it's very Buddhist, but there's many other interpretations possible as well. So what does the theory say is that you have a kind of release of neurotransmitters that tells the person what to do. An untrained mind with an OCD, for example, obsessive compulsive disorder, when the mind is not trained, there's no free will. The person will do exactly what comes to mind, like washing your hands as soon as possible. Now, of course, we have to watch a bit more, but a person with OCD has a kind of severe aspect, right? So that's an untrained mind, not much free will. But if you train in alertness and mindfulness, and you generate what Jeffrey Schwartz called, you know, this kind of the power of mental attention, you learn to think, or you habituate, that's what we're talking about, you habituate your mind to do another direction of going to the garden instead of washing your hands. The more you think about that, the more you habituate in that direction, there's a more probability of neurotransmitters being released with regard to going to the garden after some time, right? You see? So there's a shift of mental training gives you more free will. You see that? But it's still within the whole context of, you know, the probabilities of what has been taught by our brain and how we mentally react. You see that? So it's a very complex process, but I think the power of habituation can play an important role in the free will aspect. You see that? Yeah. And it's very interesting to see that if you relate that from a Buddhist perspective to a precious human rebirth, as we discussed before, then you see actually that we're extremely fortunate to have a mind that thinks in the way we're discussing now. It's very difficult to come to this stage, you know. The majority of the people of this world, they don't have this, they think we are nuts. You on that side of the screen, I'm on that side of the screen. Many people in this world, they think we're cuckoo, you know. No, luckily it's a bit more because thanks to His Holiness Dalai Lama. Yesterday also I went for a walk, and a few people in the car, they gave a thumbs up when they saw me walking around like this. So I thought, okay, there's some recognition there. You're not totally an alien. But yeah, there's not that many people around on this planet who can think like, you know, what we are discussing here. So we're very fortunate. So that means that this kind of incredible opportunity we have now is very difficult to get all those conditions together, because it's so easy to fall out of this, fall back in our old habituation, and the free will goes down the line. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay. Yeah.
Geshe-la, next one is Radik.
Radik, yeah.
Radik, if you can, I will unmute you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
I think I wanted to come back to the back.
Closer to the mic, please, or?
Well, we can't hear you, Radik.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back to that beggar you mentioned.
It's better.
It just seems to be, you know, we give the example that obviously he might ask us for money, but we can choose to give the food instead. But I was just thinking, it just kind of about the situation, because we might not know actually. It could be that he might have completely no money, might be withdrawing, it might cause him to die.
Yeah.
And us not knowing, not being realized beings. Actually, I don't know what they would create. So maybe I'm just trying to think myself, like maybe I should actually just concentrate more on the path of meditating and become realized beings. Then I will know really what to do, and then and you know, really being able to somehow create positive karma.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that's just my thoughts. But I have actually a question. Might be a silly question, but I was just thinking about little animals. I don't know, ants, whatever, some little animals in the garden, and an act of killing those, right? And I was thinking about difference. For example, if somebody has really just intention to go there and kill those ants, let's say 1,000 ants, and just kill them, right? And all the four conditions are there, and there's completion and everything. And there's another person who does exactly the same act, but to the human beings, you know. How different karma that would be? Would that the other maybe the person who killed the humans have bigger because those beings are in the higher realms of existence, or is there a difference actually? Would that?
Yeah.
Or is it also like very hidden phenomena? We have to.
All right. Yeah.
Wait for the answer.
So regarding your first point, I mean, of course, it all depends on intention, right? To give to another person or not, depends. You check. That's what bodhisattvas do. They see what will be the benefits on long and short term, and then they make a decision and do it, and that's it. And don't think about it too much more after that. You know, so that's what I said before. Have a good intention, do the things you have to do, and then conclude it. You know, so that's very clear cut in moving forward. Yeah. So that's just. Then, ants, killing 1,000 ants or killing 1,000 human beings, killing 1,000 human beings from the point of view of the object is heavier. Yeah, so you can have more heaviness from the point of view of the object, or from the point of view of your intention, or the way you kill, as we discussed, right? And why is that so? Because a human being has a greater capacity to develop, generally speaking, with regards to those in the animal realm, like ants, right? Yeah. So that's mainly taken as a people like killing, for example, a spiritual leader, you know, who does a lot of good things for society, is basically more harmful than a person who is a criminal, right? Yeah. Though it's still, both is negative, right? Both is killing of a human being, which is negative. But from the point of view of the potential of the object, there's a difference. Yeah. So that's why a distinction is being made. And it's not that the Buddha just made that up. No, it's just from the point of view of having seen the cause and effect relationships of those two acts. Yeah. So for us, it's still a very hidden phenomena, but the Buddha saw, right? Yeah. And then, based on that kind of direct knowledge, then made this kind of, you know, understanding of reality as it is. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's not because of a law and order that the Buddha decided that, and you know, like people do in politics. It's not like that. It's kind of what is reality, and according to that reality, we describe things. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Radik. And next one will be Lucia. I'll unmute her.
And then we're running over time.
Okay, I'll make it really, really quick. So the question about, question number 2.
Yeah, 2 questions.
The question number 2. What are the 4 factors?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. The throwing and completing karma.
Yeah.
So where do the 4 factors come in? So I think that throwing karma means, you know, the rebirth and someone jumping out. But then it says means all 4 factors are complete.
Need to be complete, yeah.
So the 4 factors, again, are you still talking about basis, intention, deed, and completion?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So those 4 factors, if they all are complete, it has potential to have a throwing karma aspect, which is quite a heavy thing that can throw you in another rebirth, right?
Hang on then. So what is the basis then?
For example, the act of killing, the basis.
Sorry. Yeah.
The basis is the object.
Yeah.
The basis in all this aspect is the object towards which you commit an act.
Right, but how does that relate to the throwing karma?
Yeah, because the throwing karma is much heavier than the completion karma, right? Yeah.
Oh, I understand now.
Yeah, because just to be born as a human being or to feel the cool breeze when it's hot, there's a difference, right? So to get a human body, you need more causes and conditions than just to receive a cool breeze when it's hot, right? So that means that the amount of causes for a human body to be received, you need to do more substantial kind of acts, right? Like practicing morality, good motivation, etc., etc. So that means that for these big results, you need a certain amount of strong causes. Yeah? So that's why you need all those 4 factors complete to produce a rebirth.
So are you saying that are you saying that affliction, is that a destructive emotion?
Yes. Yeah. Affliction is a destructive emotion. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to have to read.
Yeah.
But I'm still not catching it. Sorry. Never mind.
It's kind of terminology sometimes, especially when you're quite new to this material.
Yeah.
Then terminology.
Buddhism. Yeah.
Yeah. So also the terminology we use, you have to get used to, and you have to understand.
I know. Yeah.
What is this term? How is it being defined? Yeah. So that's very important to know. That comes with time.
Yeah. Okay.
That doesn't come in 1 or 2 days. Yeah. If you study linguistics, you know that certain terminologies, how we things describe, and even for a newborn young child to get used to language takes time, right? So especially when we talk about this kind of hardcore aspects of philosophy, and karma is kind of, what? Then it takes time to get used to the terminology, right? Yeah. So that comes with time. Yeah. Yeah, is that okay? For the time being? Yeah. Yeah, then I think we have to stop, is it? Because
I think that's all. There's, I think, no more questions. There's no more raised hands.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Yes. And Geshe-la, would you like to, screen share the closing prayers?
You have or not?
Yes, I have the one that we use for Sakadawa.
Yeah, you can use that. Put that on. Yeah, perfect. So then we do a few dedications, and before we do the dedications, and thank you very much, because it's such a beautiful day. You know, you could have done something else today, but luckily you made the right decision. Yeah, because going out there, I saw yesterday for a walk, for some, because sometimes it's good to exercise a little bit, but other than that, that's not really constructive causes for happiness. I couldn't find outside yesterday. So, yeah, but sometimes it's good to relax and, to think about things, with a good motivation. Then every act, has meaning. So that's why it's important to motivate. So according to motivation, also we dedicate. And a few things just to be said also, like discovering Buddhism, as we do weekends, and we go into depth, right? Like this. Yeah. So that's very good. But sometimes also we have to bring it all together, So that's why we do in the beginning, for example, the foundation of all good qualities. Yeah, that prayer. Yeah, so that's very good. And read not only the individual models, but read Lamrim texts, like Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, for example, by Ponkar Rinpoche, with kind of medium-sized text. Or other Lamrim texts, the Lam means part. Rim means stages, so the stages of the path. So try to read those texts, then you get an overview. Yeah, and also next month, the 4th and 5th, if I'm right, July, then we're gonna do a weekend on the Lam Rim. Yeah, so we're gonna combine the whole Lam Rim in one overview. So you're welcome to join then as well, because sometimes it's good to get those overviews. Yeah? And sometimes we also do retreats, and then to attend those retreats, that's actually this weekend was planned to have, normally we have a few days retreat here in Jamyang, but it's difficult now to do that, so we do it online as a 2-day kind of event. Yeah, so there's more opportunities coming up of doing retreats. Yeah, I think it's very important, because if you do those aspects, you get a whole overview, right, of the Lama Rim, and then you see, the karma fits in here. Oh yeah, the Prashim Rebirth fits there, you know, and then you start to get an overview of the whole path. And then you know actually why are we studying these individual subjects. Yeah? Because discovering Buddhism is based upon the stage of the path to enlightenment, and we just dive into the different subjects to get things more clear and then move onwards. Yeah? So anyway, this is for information. Yeah, so so that's dedicated. Because very fortunate. So the free will is depending on the free will in the future for positive things depends on what we decide, how we train our mind now actually. So that's why we also have to, what I said, there's a difference between the prayer and dedication, right? So dedication means that by the power of having done something constructive today, you know, thinking about these things, then we make a prayer that in the future we develop more and more and understand these things more in order to achieve more happiness for self and others. Yeah, so that's kind of constructive way of moving forward. So to enhance those aspirations, then we can do a few kind of dedication prayers. Yeah, so there's a 3 principal aspects of the path, meaning renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. That means that you want to liberate, you know, be liberated from all suffering. Yeah, that's renunciation. Then you have the same wish for all other sentient beings, not only yourself. So that's bodhicitta. And then the way to do that is to realize emptiness, right? So as we know, ignorance is a root cause of afflictions. If you eliminate ignorance, you eliminate all afflictions. Like taking the root, the tree of the afflictions will never grow. So to take away the root, you have to understand the ultimate nature of reality. Yeah, so that's why we also do a prayer with regards to wisdom realizing emptiness. So that's the 3 principal aspects of the path, right? Renunciation, bodhicitta, and realizing emptiness. Yeah, so that's a few things we do. And then also we pray for the long and healthy life of precious gurus, because without the teachers like His Holiness Dalai Lama, it's very difficult to get these understandings. Yeah, so we pray never to be separated from them also in future lifetimes, and for the spreading of these teachings. Yeah, so that's a summary of what we do now. Yeah, so I will just recite in Tibetan, and you can read, or just more important, just what I just said in a few lines. Just try to reflect on that and try to dedicate for that purpose, or for those purposes. Yeah. Nejon samba rembo she magye pana gege chik geba nyamba meba yang gone gonde bewa sho janjo semjo rembo chi magye pana gege chik geba nyamba meba yang gone gonde bewa sho. Then emptiness. Toni tawa rembo che magye pana gege chik geba nyamba meba yang gone gonde bewa sho. Then His Holiness Kare rawe gorwe zinganso pendan dewa malu jungwe chenre zegwan tenzin gyazo yi shabe shite badu tengyo chi. And then Lama's over him she tu zan zan shen ja hang yun gyawe tenzin yong bewe gyun zan do go zi jo sun gorwe le ngun chun Bada so du job then show. And then future lifetimes, last one is there? Yes. Yeah, I just recite and you just think. So also future lifetimes never apart from precious gurus, and quickly progress on the grounds and paths and achieve the state of Buddhahood as quickly as possible. And by doing that, also think that you making the prayer itself and the aim we pray or dedicate towards too are empty of independent existence and in the nature of interdependence, and that's why the prayer also comes through. Sadan lam yi yundan rabzoni doje changi kobano to. Okay, thank you very much.
Geshe-la, can you put your camera on again? I accidentally clicked something off.
Yeah. Thank you so much, but sorry, again, half an hour over time. But yeah, what to do? Yeah, sometimes, yeah. But anyway, it's a good half hour. So yeah, thank you very much. And then see you, what is it, tomorrow, right? 10 o'clock, yeah. Sweet.
Yes, Geshe-la.
Yeah, and
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Geshe-la.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.